Hey friends, it's Laura. Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome. In today's planty video, I am going to be talking about plants that are resilient, easy care, grow quickly, and are overall really good plants for beginner plant parents. There are a lot of plants that are marketed or talked about as if they're really easy for beginner plant parents. They're not. And I did make a video all about that, all about plants to avoid if you are new to plants. But the plants in today's video are really easy, they're beautiful, they grow quickly, they are for the most part resilient to pests. Of course, as always, this is just in my opinion. I do have a lot of plants. It is based on my experience. These plants are rock solid and are really fun to try if you are a beginner. If you're not a beginner, these are also just solid plants to have in your collection because they're easy and beautiful. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start with a type of Hoya, and Hoya is not always recommended for beginners, and there's reasons for that, but I'm specifically recommending Hoya Carnosa. And Hoya Carnosa, there are variegated Hoya Carnosas. This is the Crimson Princess. There's also the Crimson Queen. There's also the Hoya Carnosa compacta that grows in with these sort of twirly, very interesting leaves. Hoya Carnosa is very strong. It does not attract pests. It grows quickly for a Hoya. They are easy to care for. You just water when the leaves are soft. And they do appreciate a ton of light. They will definitely grow faster if you're able to give them a ton of light. But if you can't give them a ton of light, they're just getting sort of medium light, they will still be fine. They'll grow slowly, but they will survive. I have never killed a Hoya Carnosa even as a beginner. I got the Crimson Princess pretty early in my plant parent journey, and it's doing great. I also have the Hoya Crimson Queen, and this one has the variegation on the outside. The Crimson Princess has the variegation on the inside. That's the difference. And then there is also just Hoya Carnosa Green, which is also incredibly beautiful. I love these Hoyas. For a while, I basically only had Hoya Carnosa and Hoya Curtisi. Hoya Curtisi is also a really good beginner plant. That is, I can grab it. So if you're new to plants and you want to try Hoyas, these are really good beginner Hoyas. Another reason I recommend Hoya Carnosa for beginners is they are a lot cheaper than some of the other types of Hoyas. Hoyas grow slowly, so the prices do tend to be higher in general. But Hoya Carnosa, because it is so resilient and easy to grow, you can usually get one under $20, sometimes even under $10. This is my Hoya Curtisi. This is also a really good beginner Hoya. These can be found for fairly cheap. I got this huge one. It wasn't this big when I got it, but I got a really full pot under $10. That was a good deal, but you can definitely find Hoya Curtisi sometimes even in big box stores. And this, like the Hoya Carnosa, is very resilient. It will grow fairly quickly. And if you forget to water it or you overwater it, it usually will do okay. I also bought this as a beginner and it's still here. It's a unique plant. In no way are all beginner plants boring. I'm going to try and show you the cooler ones. And this is definitely a good beginner Hoya if you want to try Hoya. Next, I'm going to talk about some philodendrons that are really easy to care for, but still really stunningly beautiful. This is a philodendron burken, and you can see, of course, it has beautiful stripy leaves. These used to be, oh, I have a dead leaf. These used to be really difficult to find. Now they are super easy to find. You could get them for $5, $10. Sometimes you could get really full ones. I have kept this plant in like a dark corner and forgotten about it, and it was still totally fine. It's looking kind of wonky right now because I did cut off a bunch of leaves that were just old. They weren't dying because I had done anything wrong. They were just dying because they're old. I highly recommend Filodendron burken. Not only is it beautiful, like it's so unique, it's so beautiful, but it is very resistant to pests. Other philodendrons have totally disintegrated because of thrips, and this one just went on living. I don't even think this plant has gotten thrips, even though it has lived right beside other plants that got thrips. So it's very resilient to pests, which if you're a beginner, you might not have pests yet, but it's a good thing for your plant to be resilient to pests. It's also very forgiving if you forget to water it. If you overwater it, it's forgiving. This plant just makes me smile. I do forget about it, not because I don't love it, but just because it doesn't demand anything of me. Oh, there is roots coming out the bottom. I might have to repot eventually. I often buy burkens as gifts for people that I'm trying to get them into houseplants because what's not to love? It's so beautiful, and And as I said, just really, really resilient and strong and really easy to find right now. That might not be the case forever, but right now it's pretty common, pretty easy to find. I often see it in grocery stores now, which you should pick one up if you see one. I am going to talk about another philodendron, and it is actually behind me right up there. So I'm going to move the camera. That is my philodendron Florida green. So this is my philodendron Florida green. You can see the leaf shape is so cute. And this plant used to be pretty hard to find, but now again, I feel like every single store is selling this plant. And this plant is like steel. It is like the burken. If you forget to water it, if you overwater, it's going to be totally fine. I mean, obviously don't try to do those things, but it's gonna be totally fine. It is extremely resilient to pests. This plant has never had a pest issue. And this plant grows so fast. So you can see I've got it on a moss pole there. It grows extremely fast. I have snipped the top off of it like maybe 5 times and it just keeps going and going. I highly recommend this plant. And it just looks so tropical. It looks so unique. The leaf shape is crazy. Now there is a Philodendron Florida Beauty. There's different variegated versions of this plant. I don't have those. I might get them someday. And I'm sure those are just as sturdy, but when they are variegated, they tend to grow slower, right? So this plant is a super fast grower. If you want a quick tropical transformation in your living room, I really recommend this plant because it will just take over in a good way. Like it adds so much to this room, and I think everyone should have one. Beginners, intermediates, advanced, everyone should have this plant if they just want something to fill in a corner. And like, look how cute these leaves are. Next up, I'm going to talk about some trailing plants because I feel like everyone loves trailing plants. They look beautiful in your home. This is a lipstick plant, and lipstick plants are so easy to take care of. They are so forgiving. Their leaves are kind of plump and succulent, which means if you forget to water, they'll be okay for a little while. And I find even if you overwater this plant, it might drop a few leaves, but it's not going to rot on you. It's gonna be okay. And the fun thing about lipstick plants is they bloom really easily. If you are giving her a little bit of fertilizer and enough light, she will bloom, which is really exciting. All plants bloom in some way, but these are just really easy to get to bloom, and it feels very satisfying to have a plant bloom in your home. So I definitely recommend getting a lipstick plant. They are not uncommon, but I would say less common than maybe the other plants I've talked about. So if you see one for a good deal, I would definitely snap it up. It looks beautiful. I have mine just like attached to the wall with this little planter thing, and it just trails down and it fills in that space, and it is so happy all of the time. This one I actually bought as a variegated lipstick plant, and there is a little tiny bit of variegation, but not a lot. I know there's a lot more that are variegated. The goldfish plant is really similar, but I don't think they're technically the same. But if you see a goldfish plant, I would say that's also a really easy care plant and very similar to the lipstick plant. It blooms easily. The blooms are yellow instead of red because goldfish, but I'm pretty sure they're like very similar plants. But this is the one I have and I love it. All right, I am not allowed to talk about beginner houseplants without talking about pothos. Pothos are the best plant to get if you are a beginner, in my opinion. They look beautiful all of the time. So this is a neon pothos. I have a few others that I'm gonna show you. Find one that you like and just enjoy it. I like to hang them on the wall like the lipstick plant. You can have them also trailing down a bookcase. You can have them climb up a wall with clips, and they will just grow. Pothos can get pests, but they are fairly pest resistant. I find sometimes they get pests like in the store just because they're in every single store. So sometimes you bring it home and already has pests, but if you bring it home and it's healthy, probably it will stay healthy. They grow quickly. They're also really fun and easy to propagate, which I think is an experiment that new plant parents just love to do anyway. So they will grow quickly. You can snip them, propagate them, and share with friends. And they look amazing. They also are great because when they're very thirsty, they will go limp. This one is on its way. It's looking a little bit limp, less perky than usual. When it goes limp, you water it it perks right up and you are good. I have had 0 issues with any of my pothos ever, like 0 issues. When I was a new plant parent, I will show you this one. This was one of my first plants that I ever got. This is a pearls and jade pothos. I just bought it because it looked pretty and it was much fuller. I've snipped this one and, you know, pruned it, whatever. It was much fuller. And at one point I just hadn't watered in a long time because I didn't know what I was doing and it looked like it was dead and I thought I had killed it and I thought, wow, that's the end. But I watered it and, you know, within like 4 hours, it was back to its normal self, and that kind of hooked me on pothos. You look like you're dead, but you're actually just thirsty. And that is just a really easy way to know that your pothos is thirsty and kind of saves you from underwatering because you can just tell that it needs water. I also find that pothos don't really need fertilizer. I do fertilize mine sometimes, but they don't need it. Like often I will just skip them with the fertilizer because they don't need it, they just grow. I'm sure you would need to fertilize, you know, once a year, but you don't need to fertilize anywhere near the amount that you should be fertilizing, for example, a philodendron. They're not that hungry, they're happy with water. A lot of people just grow pothos in water. So you can get some cuttings started in a nice vase and it can grow for quite a while just with water. You might wanna add like a drop of plant food every once in a while, but it will be totally fine. So that's another fun experiment you can do if you're a new plant parent or, you know, wanting to get some cuttings from a friend. People will always snip their pothos for you. If you have a friend and you ask for a cutting of their pothos and they say no, it might not be a real friend. But most plant people are happy to give you a cutting if you ask, and then you can grow it in water or in a pot, whatever you choose. So this is my pearls and jade. I also have a marble queen. Sometimes these are called snow queen if they're more white than green. But these are just kind of a marbled pothos. And there are so many other types. Skindapsus is often called pothos, but it's not actually a pothos and is a little bit trickier to grow, I would say, than a true pothos. But find a variety that you like and buy it. Like I feel like if you've never had a plant in your life and you get a pothos, you'll be happy and it will just live with you forever. A lot of people will have pothos in their house that are like 20 years old because it just keeps going. You prune it, it keeps going. I feel like pothos are almost underrated in their beauty. They are stunning plants. The variegation on this leaf, for example, that's just as beautiful as the variegation on my more expensive philodendrons, for example. It's just as beautiful, but it's just a more common plant and it's easy to grow, so it kind of gets overlooked. But pothos are a beginner must, in my opinion, and you will not be disappointed if you get yourself a pothos. Some pothos are a little bit pricier, Manjula pothos. There's some fancy like designer pothos types. If you want to get into those, go ahead. At least it won't die. I don't really recommend that beginners buy really expensive plants because if they die, it will be really sad. But a pothos, at least, if you're investing a lot of money, it probably will not die if you take somewhat good care of it. So that is really all I have to say about beginner plants. I'm gonna link a whole bunch of other beginner plant videos below this video because you're probably a beginner plant parent if you're watching this video. I'm also going to link my Skillshare course, which is a plant care course really targeted to beginner plant parents. It goes over watering, lighting, propagation, pest prevention, all the basics to get you started and to give you a really solid understanding of plant care. The link that I have below is for a 1 month free trial of Skillshare. So you could do my course and then decide if you want to continue with your subscription. I am fine with that. I just want more people to be into plants. So that'll be linked below for you. That is all from me for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and hopefully I see you in my next video. Bye.